Welcome back to another Alvado video. Now I'm very excited to tell you that we are going to be watching K3 Soju's 1000th game played on the ladder. Woo! I don't know whether to celebrate or to flame him, but probably we should be celebrating because we get to consume all the knowledge that he's learned. What comes with 1000 games, yes, there's going to be a bunch of mindless clicking, there's going to be a bunch of 8th place, there's going to be a bunch of 1st place, but the most important thing is that there's going to be so much knowledge. Now, instead of working hard and, putting in effort and playing games ourselves, instead what we're going to do is we're going to sit back and we're going to watch a 20-minute video and we're going to use all of his hard work and we're going to try and learn as much as we can instead of playing, 1000 games. Now, what would you rather have, 100 games played or 10 of my videos being watched? You probably could learn similar amounts of knowledge in just those two things. That's exactly why you got to subscribe. Okay, now let's get into this game. So we can see that he was offered Battle Mage, Prankster Crest, and Portable Forge. A lot of those augments are very strong, but he just goes Portable Forge. He chooses Zhonya's Hourglass over Triforce and Manazane. He could play Manazane in like an AP style variation of a comp, but he doesn't want to go for that. He likes playing Zhonya's because Zhonya's is extremely strong in an item or in a comp like Viego and extremely strong in a comp like Vertical Laser Core. Now, I was excited. I was very happy that this was his 1000th game played because the game before this, he just played Vertical Duelist, and then the game after this, he just played Vertical Laser Core. Now, of course, there's always something that you can learn from a game, but the thing is that I was not trying to analyze a game of Vertical Duelists and a game of Vertical Laser Core. But we can see here now that after he chooses to slam Chalice, he's basically saying, I'm committed to playing Viego. Because realistically, if you're trying to flex between Viego and Laser Core comp has no use for Chalice of Power. So yeah, he's basically just 1000 games played and he's just hard committing to one comp on 2-2. Okay, so here's I think one of the first things that we're gonna learn a lot from him, but I think there's one thing that he could learn in this situation because he ends up losing this round. And the reason why he loses this round is he actually chooses to play this Fiora instead of this Yasuo, and realistically, Fiora isn't doing much for his board. I kind of made a little mock-up board here, where I think if he had positioned like this, where he chooses to give a Chalice value to Yasuo instead of Poppy, and then he gives it to Gangplank, then there was a lot higher chance that he would be able to win that round. And, since his board is really strong, Gangplank 2 with a Zhonya's Hourglass is easily one of the strongest early game units that you can get. He probably would have, won that round, and then he would be able to continue to win rounds. But I understand why he's playing Fiora is because he's already thinking about playing Viego. So he just had Fiora on his board. Because he wants to have like those Ox Force units, and you can see that he sells Yasuo in the next turn because he doesn't actually want to have Yasuo. But if he put Yasuo on his board in the previous round, then it wouldn't have cost him an Econ threshold, and there's a higher chance that he would have like won that fight, right? He chooses to go for Sword off of Carousel, and we can already see how well he understands how to play this Viego comp. And you might be thinking, why would he go BF Sword in a comp that it plays around only AP? Well, it's because of his current items. He has open bow, and he really wants the bow to be Titans, but if he doesn't get the items that he wants going into Krugs, then at the very least, he can make Giant Slayer with the sword and the bow. And sword also is half of Gunblade and half of Bloodthirster, and both of those are really strong items on Viego. So even though that sword is an item that you typically would see being built in like AD comps, or it's like most of the items that sword builds is AD items. It's easily the most flexible item that he can have in this situation. So here we can see the items that he starts getting dropped. It's dropped Chain and Cloak. That's exactly why he didn't slam Giant Slayer in the first place, because of a situation like this could arise. he now has essentially one of the best 3 items that you could have on Viego. Zhonya's, Titans, and Bloodthirster. Now, but before I start talking about items, I kind of want to talk about why he didn't tailor his board for the next hero augment. Now, you can see that he has Defender, Ox-Force, and Duelistan. If he's playing around Viego, the only trait that he can realistically play around is Ox-Force, and his shop has a Galio and a Nasus in there, so he could have raised his odds of trying to get Alistar. But the thing is that he would have had to drop a Poppy 2 and a Wukong 2 with a Chalice if he just wanted odds for Alistar, which wouldn't have even been that strong in the first place. So he just prays that he hits an Ox-Force hero augment because he has 2 Ox-Force in, but he doesn't end up hitting any of those. He ends up getting Defender, Duelist, and then he re-rolls and he gets Defender, Random, and Defender. And so here is one of the ways why I think this video demonstrates how strong of a player that Soju can be, because he ends up going for this set that gives him this locket. Now, I think he would have gone for this set regardless, just because he couldn't really utilize either of the hero augment traits anyways. But now that he has this set and he gets a free locket, we can see that he has this Wukong 2 and Leona is a renegade. So he's already thinking about the late game situation where he can actually, make use of this set on his board, because he's going to be playing around Leona, and then all he needs to do is just find a replacement Wukong so that he can get the 3 mech in. And on top of that, there's actually 3 AD players. There's a Samira player and there's 2 Duelist players that end up being very strong later on in the game. So having 2 Defender in is not even bad anyways. The only issue is that you have to play Set and Wukong on your board, where those units are pretty, they're easily not the strongest units, especially in the late game. But of course, he's just going to make use with what he gets. Now, he gets rewarded for playing, well, and he ends up getting this Viego dropped on level 6 on his last shop, and he's able to fully itemize this Viego. So now I kind of want to start talking about why these 3 items are extremely powerful on Viego. So if we kind of look here, this is tactics.tools, and you can see a lot of the stats for these units. So if I click on Viego, and then we go to item trios, and then we click on top 4 percentage, you can see that Zhonya's has the first item trio that has the highest top 4%, and it's still in a lot of the item trios later on. Now, the reason why Zhonya's is so strong on units like Viego is because not only does it give AP, which Viego really wants, it also gives 40 armor and 40 MR. So to kind of give you some perspective there, a Bramble gives you 70 armor and a Declaw gives you 70 MR. So he's getting, slightly more than half of a Bramble and a Declaw in combination with 40 AP in just one item, and that's not even, that's just the stats that it gives. But Zhonya's also makes you invulnerable once you drop down to, I think, 50 or 60% health. And then, you get the free aggro drop, and then you can continue to just, play the game from there. Now, why is aggro drop so powerful on Viego? It's because he already, because he has Titans, he's going to be stacking up. So you really benefit from the aggro drop, because if you don't, you lose the ability to get burst down. Then the next time that there's a carry that's going to be attacking your Viego, it's going to be attacking your Viego with max Titan stacks. So Viego's stacking up. He's already extremely tanky because of the Zhonya's. You basically have to kill Viego 3 times, because you not only have to proc Zhonya's, but you have to proc Ox-Force, and then he's going to heal up after both of those things procs, and then you have to kill him a 3rd time because of the aggro drops and just because of how he dashes around. And he just becomes a extremely hard unit to kill. And on top of that, he has BT, and since he has regenerative shields from Set, the shield from BT also gets replaced after it gets broken because of the regenerative shields. Now, there's a lot of things going on here. He chose to go for Cybernetic Uplink as one of his augments. He didn't really want to go for it, but it was just overall the best augment that he could go for. He ended up making Ginsu and Shiv because that's what he got dropped off of Wolves. And Shiv is really strong because he doesn't have Spark. And Ginsu is not that bad because it pairs extremely well with the stacking, or like the attack speed that you initially get from Ox Force, and the bonus MR shred that you get from having multiple Shiv procs is, you know, it's going to make sure that most of the team's MR is continually shredded, and he saw into like the future and he could understand that he's going to replace this Fiora with Aphelios down the line. So he's going, and both of these items are really strong in Aphelios, you know, paired together. So I know I just kind of said a lot, so let's try to talk about, you know, this current state of the game. He leveled to 7 on 3-5, and since he made that decision, it only makes sense that he's going level 8 on 4-5, because you basically relinquish your ability to go 8 on 4-2. But level 8 on 4-5 is not bad, especially with, you know, how strong his board is. And he just rolls Slight here. I think a lot of people would, you know, level to 8 on 4-5 and see that they don't have a two-star 4-cost carry, and they would just send it. But the thing is, he just rolled Slight to make his board that much stronger. He doesn't have any anti-heal, so he found an Asol, and then he chose to stop rolling after that. Now he chooses to Slight roll again. He just wants to maintain 20 gold. And in this roll, he found a Leona and he found a Viego. So now he has Viego pair. He has Leona. He's starting to put together his the board that he wants to, you know, cap out with, while also not being that weak. So even though if he's taking some losses, they're just very minor losses. He finally sells the Wukong so he can get the items off of it. He's going to be playing around this Mecha Leona. He kind of sold a lot of the units on his board there. It's because he's planning on doing a massive roll down on 5-1. And before we get into the roll down, let's just watch the roll down first. So he's just kind of holding units. He has a lot of open slots on his board, so he's just looking for units that are upgraded so that he can, you know, not be as weak as he currently is. You can see he's a little dizzy here. He kind of ends up making some mistakes. He doesn't know exactly what units he wants to play because he didn't roll down enough to give him, you know, very clear direction on what he wants his board to consist of. But at the very least, he did get a Viego too. So you can see that he's still, you know, he's still very healthy. He's he only took a 1 unit loss there, and it's at the expense of him figuring out, you know, an extremely capped board. So he finds a Rammus 2 and a Bel'Veth 2, and he says, you know, that's strong enough. At the end of the day, he's still 54 HP, he's the second healthiest in the lobby. He wants to go level 9 because he's going to be able to, you know, really cap out his board if he's able to go level 9. So he just plays the upgraded units that he hits, and, you know, that's strong enough. He doesn't need to roll down to hit, you know, everything. His board isn't perfect right now, but it doesn't need to be perfect. Now, I kind of want to talk about regenerative shields. I kind of glanced over that. If you don't know what the augment does, you have set on your board. Not only does it give you a locket for free, so it's already like, oh, at the very least, you just get an item, but also it gives you, it makes it so that whenever a shield gets broken, whenever, you know, they get through a shield, then the shield comes back at 40% of like its effectiveness. So that's kind of what I was talking about with BT. BT gives a max percentage health shield when you get down to like 40% HP, I think. So what happens is that you get down to that threshold, you get the shield, and then when they get through the shield, you get another shield, but it's like a little bit smaller one. But no matter, like, at the end of the day, it's still, you know, more survivability. You know, this Viego is basically, it's like a tank Viego almost. Like, he has damage with Titans and Zanyas, but Titans and Zanyas both give him, you know, so much, you know, just defensive stats. And he doesn't even need that much damage because he also has this, this Chalice. You know, his board is extremely strong. And of course, Bel'Veth is a really good item holder for these items as well. He wanted to put them on Aphelios. He doesn't have Aphelios right now, but Bel'Veth 2 is, you know, working out just fine. Now, I think if you're looking at his board, you might also be confused on why he chose to split the Chalice and the Locket. Because realistically, his positioning wouldn't be like that like greased if he chose to put them on the same unit, but it's because he went for uplink. You forgot that he had uplink. He wanted to spread the Chalice and the Locket so that more units on his board could get that HP and more units on his board could get that mana gen. Okay, so we're now in a top 4 situation. And he's still, you know, his board is really strong, but it's not even close to capped. He still needs Set 2 to give Leona more HP, still needs Leona 2, and there's so many ways that he could try and, you know, play around his current traits. That's exactly why, like, this game is so much more enjoyable to analyze, because realistically, if I'm watching, like, a Duelist game or, like, a Laser Core game, it's just like, okay, he's just looking for 6 Laser Core, he's looking for 6 Duelist. And there's, like, some decisions that, you know, matter, but at the end of the day, playing around Viego, often there's so many different ways that you could play it. So he gets BT from the Anvil, and BT, again, he gets that double shield proc with the regenerative shield set, so he's thinking about that, but also BT is very strong on Leona. Leona does true damage, she just one-taps like any frontline unit for free, and if she's dealing a lot of damage, you know, she's healing a lot. He was able to now find this Aphelios, he sells the Bel'Veth, and he's going to itemize the Aphelios now, and he's able to put in an Alistar, the Alistar giving him 4 Ox Force and Aegis because of Leona. So now you can kind of see how his board is coming together, even with 2 extra slots, because he needs to play Set and Wukong. He's able to still, you know, come up with this kind of a board where he's able to get 3 Renegade and 4 Ox Force. Sells Remus for Fiddlesticks, and then he finds an Urgot 2, so he just plays an Urgot 2. Again, he's continuing to spread his items because he has Cybernetic Uplink. And the last 2 players in the lobby is Solus with this Duelist board, and this other guy who had a Soraka carry. He types in chat just FF, he says you have no chance. Then he immediately regrets the decision because he just got a Duelist spat off of Carousel, and he can now fit an 8 Duelist. That's pretty funny because he needs to go back and find that Kayle, so he actually makes note of that, and he had a Kayle in his shop there, and he just sits with the Kayle in the shop. I also really like this play. He realizes that this is the last fight of the game, and he knows that he's not going to get Aphelios 2, so he just sells his Aphelios pair, and he itemizes this Urgot 3 because Urgot 3 is stronger than Aphelios 2. Because of that decision, you see the fight was actually like pretty close because of the fact that his opponent got 8 Duelists there. So it actually might have made the difference. You know, Urgot doing that much more damage, providing that much more MR shred with Shiv. It would have been, you know, maybe a little bit closer, maybe he would have lost, and then, you know, it gives Solus the extra chance to try and come back in the very last fight after that. But yeah, I mean, 1,000 games in the books is insane. He has so much. He has like basically an encyclopedia of knowledge, and hopefully I shared, you know, just a bit of that with you guys. Hopefully you learned something. If you liked the video, then like it, and I'll see you in the next one.